Welcome back to Never Did It. On Never Did It, we look back at the last 100 years of movie history in an effort to fill in some of our own movie blind spots. This year, we're talking Oscars, we're talking Niddies. First, we're going to talk Niddies because that's what's important. It's the Never Did It Awards. Jake, you came up with the Never Did It Awards. Talk about it.
Well, I've been a big Oscar nut for 20 plus years. The first time I ever really remember hearing something that there was something called Best Picture was all the way back in like 1990, would have been 1992 for the movies of 1991. I remember hearing like Silence of the Lambs and Beauty and the Beast, getting nominated. I think was one too, because that was a movie obviously I had seen at the time. And then after that, for a couple years, I started kind of following the Best Pictures and some of the bigger awards. And then by 1996, when it was The English Patient versus Fargo, or like the two big ones, that was like the first year I was like really, really invested. I'd seen quite a few of the movies. I was 14 by then, so I was seeing a lot of like the R-rated movies and more like adult oriented stuff that I hadn't seen. And then really since then, it's been every year. My obsession with them continues on. I try to see all of the nominated movies every year. It's just been kind of a big thing for me, and I've always done like my own version of the awards too, just for myself. Just something that I have, and I've always liked doing that. And I've always wanted to be in like one of those critics groups, like you hear a New York Film Critics Circle is doing this, and then there was a Detroit Film Critics Circle, and there's all these film critics. Like, man, I wish I could be in one of those groups, especially back when I was actually a film critic and was actually published as like writing, doing film reviews and everything. But I never got to be part of any of those groups. So to combine these two things, like, all right, well, I'd love to do an awards thing, and we've done Never Did It, and we've had a bunch of amazing guests on the show. Like I said, we've got Jeff here with us, who's been on the show, but we've had so many other great guests who have been with us and who see movies and have interesting takes on movies and everything. So I was like, maybe we could get some involvement here with the rest of the group, have like our own little like critics group and voting. And I thought there was enough people. I think we've had 11 or 12 different guests. It's like, that's enough, I think, to get a good cross section of movies. So it was just kind of this combination of things where like I said, I love the awards, I love our podcast, and like figured if I could do something to kind of put those two things together, this would be it. So this is kind of what we came up with.
And then Jeff, we invited on like 2 days ago to be a part of this, since he was going to be available.
So happy to be here. I'm really honored. I've always loved the Niddies.
And in addition to Jeff, the voting body includes Jake, myself, Megan Fisher, Brandon Treadway, Jesse Jackson, but not that Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson of the Set Lusting Bruce podcasts, Trip Burton of the Trip Through Comedy podcast, Mike Tanzillo, formerly of Blue Sky Studios, formerly of the Too Old to Date podcast. Very importantly, please look that up. That's a good one. And now 3D animator. Riley Trahan of the Nerd It Here First website and podcast. Mike Noyes of the Random Acts of Cinema podcast. Annie Spalding of the Lives With Me. And Kevin Ford of the Flooping the Pig podcast, my co-host on that. That will hopefully come back if Adventure Time ever comes back. And also we had a special voter, Vivian Rose, who has been a guest on this podcast before, voted in the animated category. And was able to because one of the other voters hadn't seen any animated films this year. So it worked out. So the nominees for Best Feature Documentary are Super/Man, the Christopher Reeve story, Daughters, Girl State. I should probably be saying who the directors of these films are.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to. Girl State, Will and Harper, and Jim Henson Idea Man. And just for everyone's knowledge, we did ranked choice voting for all of these, even though the actual Oscars only do ranked choice voting for Best Picture. But I had time on my hands, I guess. And the winner, have any guesses before I announce them? Jeff, you want to guess which one? Did you see any of these? What did you like?
I didn't vote in this category. Only category I didn't vote because I had only seen one, and I just didn't think it was fair to just be like, that's my number one. I don't know. I had only seen Will and Harper, which I really liked. So I guess I'm hoping that it wins. Or Christopher Reeve, who I like. I didn't see this movie, though. So those are my picks.
Fair enough. I only saw Jim Henson Idea Man in this of the nominees. I did vote, but I voted for Jim Henson Idea Man, Veselka, a movie about this restaurant Veselka in the city being New York City, and people might not know where I live, and the Beach Boys documentary, which I thought was pretty good. Jake, any movies that you saw, any documentaries you saw nominated that didn't get in here?
That didn't get in there. Yes, there were a couple that didn't make it in. I voted for a documentary called Sugarcane, which just kind of recently hit Hulu and is an Oscar nominee about the boarding schools that Native Americans children were forced into for a shockingly long time. Like the last one, I think, just like closed in the 80s. So that was a very difficult documentary to get through. But I did vote for that. I also voted for the Palestinian-Israeli documentary No Other Land. That still is awaiting U.S. distribution, but is also an Oscar nominee. And then I also voted for the Bruce Springsteen documentary on Hulu because I thought it was awesome.
No Other Land is playing. If you're in New York, Actually, this is coming out in a few weeks, so it probably won't be playing anymore. But right now it is playing at the Film Forum. So the winner, which is not only the ranked choice winner, but was in the lead the entire time, is Super Slash Man, the Christopher Reeve story. Congratulations to Christopher Reeve in perpetuity. In what's the word you say after someone died?
What is it?
Posthumously?
Posthumously. He didn't make this film, but let's see who did.
But it is wonderful. That's the film I voted for of the nominees. Yeah, it's a really, really good documentary.
Yeah, I really want to see it. Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet either. It was directed by Ian Bonhote and Peter Edgui. You know what? Maybe this is why we don't say the director's name.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah. I think it's on Max. I think it's streaming on Max if anyone's interested.
It is, yep.
They do seem to have his likeness locked down after The Flash. All right, Jake, do you want to do the honors for Best Animated Feature Film?
I would love to do the honors for Best Animated Feature, and amongst these we had 13 different films that received votes for nominations, and the 5 that made it through that process are as follows. The films are Flow, Memoir of a Snail, Robot Dreams, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot.
So I have to say, I love all these movies. But I also voted for Mars Express, which did not make it in, and is a real shame that movie's... I had hoped all year that maybe it would get some buzz, but it never really picked up steam. But it's this cool... It's basically Chinatown in space. It's cool noir.
It's really neat, yeah. It's a cool movie. I voted for it, too.
And I feel like something else dropped off at the end there, but I can't remember, so I guess it wasn't that important. Oh, The Colors Within I just saw. I didn't get a chance to vote for it. But holy crap, that movie blew my mind. I saw it last week. Check it out if it comes to your town. The Colors Within.
I'm not a big animation head like you guys are, so I don't watch a ton of animation, but I had seen Flow and The Wild Robot, which I figured were probably the front runners, and so I felt that I should vote and just throw in my weight behind my preference between the two. And I did. I put Flow 1 and Wild Robot 2. I liked both of them a lot. But Flow was actually my favorite film of the year, so I guess I could say I liked it easily more than The Wild Robot, which I thought was good.
Then you will be delighted to know that Flow is the winner of the first ever Niddy for Best Animated Feature Film.
All right,
you should also be delighted to know that your vote made a difference.
Oh wow!
Because The Wild Robot was ahead in the first round, and then Flow was able to pick up the slack because of the votes it gained from Wallace and Gromit and Memoir of a Snail as the voting went on. So congratulations to Gintz Zobalotis. If I can give a recommendation, his first film, Away, is available on Tubi and I think Prime, and it's also a silent film, and he made it all by himself. And that movie is about a guy who lands on an island and has to survive by himself. Flow is a movie that he made with collaborating with other artists and is a movie about collaboration. I love this guy's career. It is so cool. His movies are about how he makes movies, and they're both great. Away is very, very good. It's very basic animation, so you need to have some patience, but I think you'll really be rewarded for paying attention to it.
Yeah, I really like that you said that about his career, and I also really love that I could hear your cat in the background for the first time.
Wait a second.
Just now.
Wait a second.
Who's going to accept that
Not
award?
just any cat.
Oh,
the cat from Flow.
Oh my gosh, you have the cat from Flow. You do.
Yep.
That's amazing.
When I watched Flow, Laszlo was on the ledge looking at the TV the entire time.
Wow.
It really resonated. The only two
that.
movies he's really watched with me are that and some stop motion animated movie about sandcastles that won the Oscar for short animated film in the 70s.
I've seen that too.
Best adapted screenplay. This was a 6-way tie. Not a 6-way tie. There was a tie for 5th place, so we had 6 entries because The Wild Robot got some late votes. So our nominees are A Complete Unknown, Sing Sing, Dune Part 2, The Wild Robot, Conclave, and Nosferatu. Our voters had a bit of a hard time knowing the difference between original and adapted screenplay. I understand where they're coming from. It's hard to know with some of these movies what the hell is going on. Some are weird, like Dune is obviously adapted, but even if Dune wasn't based on a book, Dune Part 2 would have been adapted because it's a sequel, which is an interesting but kind of weird rule. Anywho, the winner of Best Adapted Screenplay is kind of obvious, given the way the movie works, but it's Conclave. The most talky of all these movies.
Yep. That's what I voted for. I
think I must have 2. It was in the lead in round 1, and then just like kept scooping stuff up until it reached majority status, which is how ranked choice voting works. So congratulations to Conclave, which was written by Peter Strachan, I think is how you pronounce his name.
For original screenplay, we have just 5 nominees in this category, and all seem very well loved by our voting body. We've got, for original screenplay, the nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, Challengers, Real Pain, and The Substance. This was one of our winners that was decided without having to do any sort of ranked choice voting. It was decided within the first round, and the winner of that is Sean Baker's Honora.
Yeah, Honora, big winner.
Deserving.
Really, really cool.
As long as I'm saying it, because I forgot to congratulate her when it was nominated for all the awards, but my neighbor Iman worked on this film as a prop designer, so congratulations, Iman, for all the films.
Very cool.
Best Supporting Actor. The nominees are Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Stanley Tucci for Conclave, Yura Borisov for Honora, Clarence Macklin for Sing Sing, and Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown. And the winner, another outright winner, I guess in supporting actor, we really didn't have to do much, was Kieran Culkin in a Real Pain, which I think he's very good in, although I think it's a little bit of category fraud. I actually, in the nominations, voted for him for lead actor because I don't think he's a supporting actor, which turned out to be a waste of a vote. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, I did the exact same thing, and I know it's boring to talk about category fraud probably, but like it's clearly a co-lead. I mean, I don't know. I mean, sometimes there's borderline cases. I just felt like this was like, it's not really a borderline case. It's like clearly not a supporting performance.
No. And it's fraud for an obvious reason. This field is weaker than the Best Actor field, which is very, very strong this year. Clarence Macklin, I think, was the only real competition and is the only real competition for Culkin in the Oscar race. Guy Pearce's role is a little too heavy duty for the Oscars.
I could make a case for him in supporting because I think he's got a lot of the screen time and everything. But I mean, I think the movie happens, through Eisenberg, and the only reason that Kieran Culkin is because the Jesse Eisenberg character makes. I think there's a case for him to be supporting.
I could understand your case if the final shot of the movie wasn't Kieran Culkin.
My feeling on these is like, I feel like everybody becomes like a screenplay analyst and like who's doing the motivations, who's driving the thing. And I'm like, you don't need to think that deep. It's just like they're two major roles in the movie. Like they're the two leads. I don't know. That's my take on these.
I did walk out of the movie saying, oh no, I'm both of them. That's not good.
I listened to an interview, or my wife actually had it on with the cast, and Jesse Eisenberg was talking about how he ended up casting Kieran Culkin, and he said that he wanted to play that role, and his friends had to talk him out of it. And my wife and I both looked at ourselves like, wait, Jesse Eisenberg thought that he was a good fit for the Kieran Culkin role? I mean, I feel like that's kind of a hilarious lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there.
Two things about that. One, I don't think that ever happened. There's a similar story about how Walter Matthau wanted to play the other role in The Odd Couple. And it's like, no, you didn't. Stop. But in both cases, their explanation was, the role I played is so obvious and easy for me, I wanted to do some acting.
Okay.
But in both cases, and no one has ever said either of these things are fake, this is a story for the campaign.
Okay. Yeah.
You're probably right. Movie where he played the obvious person. He's not going to ruin his movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what he said.
Okay. Give us supporting or lead whatever, Jake. I don't know which one's first.
Yes, we're up to, let's do Best Lead Actor. Some real heavyweights in this category. We've got Adrian Brody from The Brutalist. We have Timothy Chalamet in A Complete Unknown. We have Coleman Domingo from Sing Sing. We have Ralph Fiennes from Conclave. And Glenn Powell from Hitman. The winner of this was a close vote on some of these, but the winner in this category is Adrian Brody of The Brutalist.
Very well deserved, I think. Was this interesting? This was interesting because in round one, Timothy Chalamet was in the lead. And then all of the second round votes, not all, all of them went to, they bumped up from Domingo to Fiennes, but then ultimately bumped up to Brody. So ranked choice vote, if it was, this had been a first past the post vote, Chalamet would have won, which would have been fine, I guess. Yeah. But very glad that Brody won the first ever Niddy, the inaugural Niddy for Best Actor.
Yeah, and I would like to point out too, when we did the nomination totals, the way we did the nomination tallies was everybody submitted their top five, and we had 24 different actors who were named in this category. Wow. So so we got a pretty good collection of guys to vote from. But the way we did it, is you would rank your actors 1 through 5, and then your ones were worth 10 points, and et cetera, and that's how we determined the nominees. Is by who got the most points. And in the actor category, Ralph Fiennes showed up on almost everyone's ballot in some fashion. He had more points than anyone else, by far. He had 79 total points, and then Chalamet was second with 44. So, I mean, Ralph Fiennes just showed up on everyone's ballot this year. It was a very well-liked performance and movie.
Yeah, clearly well-liked, but not loved enough to win. I want to go back to supporting actor real quick, just to mention one that I wish had gotten in, but didn't have any kind of a chance. I think I may have been the only person who voted for him, but Javier Bardem in Dune Part 2. I remember after seeing that movie, I thought, if this gets any nominations at all, it's going to be for Bardem, and it got none. I mean, nothing in the actor categories. Not even a peep a squeak. But he's great.
I actually have a couple shout outs for that category too, actually, because I was just looking at my ballot, and I don't have, for most of these categories I don't, but for supporting actor, I really loved the other. I guess he's not. I think he's Armenian. He's not Russian, but the other supporting guy in Anora, his name's Karen Karagulian.
Yeah,
and he was also in Tangerine, if you remember.
Yeah.
He was in Tangerine.
He was a very important role in Tangerine.
Yeah, exactly. And he basically carries the middle of Anora, almost. I mean, his energy is sort of like central to the whole middle of the movie, and he's hilarious, I think, in this. And so I just thought he should get a shout out.
He's just not as sexy as Yura Borisov.
I guess not.
He did get some votes, though. He got a couple of votes, and as did Mark how do you say that? Edelstein?
Mark Edelstein, yeah.
Edelstein, yeah. He got a couple of votes as well. So there were a couple of votes for all three of the main supporting actors in Anora.
Oh, Mark Edelstein, he's the other guy.
Yeah, he's the fake Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, he was pretty good. Yeah.
So in the best supporting actress role, this is another one where there was a tie for fifth place. So we have six entries, 6 nominees. That's the word that you say. Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, Katie O'Brien for Love Lies Bleeding, Margaret Qualley for The Substance, Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez, and Zendaya for Dune Part 2. We recognize Dune on this podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone important got shut out here. I feel like our slate is really good. I'm really happy O'Brien got in. She was my number 1 nominee. That movie has been like largely forgotten by everyone, but Love Lies Bleeding is very cool.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
And the winner is Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, who was in the lead pretty much the entire time. Like started in the lead, but not with a majority. The only person who came close, Katie O'Brien for a little bit, was in second place. Then Isabella Rossellini, which I have to say is mystifying to me as a nominee for this category. She was not in that movie nearly at all. Now, I've been saying this for years. Isabella Rossellini should have been nominated. This is also her. She's nominated for an Academy Award for this performance, which is blowing my mind. She should have been nominated for the first time for Marcel the Shell with Shoes On in a voice role that made me cry all day. She's so
That's a
good.
great take. Yeah, that's a good take.
And they don't nominate voice actors for the Oscars, so they should have a separate category for it if they're not going to do that. But this is nothing. She was incredible in Marcel. She's an incredible actor, but she's getting this nomination because it's a high-profile movie that's getting a lot of other awards. She's never gotten it before, and she's Ingrid Bergman's daughter.
The one scene that's like an Oscar clip, like literally one, Like,
and I would argue is probably one of my least favorite parts of the movie. Honestly, I mean, not that she's terrific, but it's kind of like, what is going on? Like,
it's very like look at me, or look at this is what's happening in the plot now.
Yeah.
It's the scene. It reminds me of how I always thought that Alec Baldwin was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Glengarry Glen Ross for the one scene. He must have been nominated for something, not at the Oscars. But it's very much like that. It was like they weren't in the movie.
Yeah.
Give us best lead actress in a movie, Jake.
Let's do lead actress. Our nominees in the lead actress category are Lily Rose Depp from Nosferatu, Cynthia Erivo from Wicked, Mikey Madison from Anora, Demi Moore from The Substance, and Anya Taylor-Joy from Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. And the winner of this category should have never been in doubt from the minute we started doing our nominations voting. The winner is Mikey Madison from Anora, who in our nominations voting had more points than anyone else, like again, by far. She had 97 points from just the nomination tally, and the next closest was 30 just in the nominations. Wow. And 30 was also the number of potential nominees we had to choose from. So we had a lot of great performances that were submitted in this category. And then also Mikey Madison was a first round winner. We never even had to go to the ranked choice because she reached the threshold right away.
Yeah. So reflective of the fact that we have a lot of horror fans in our voting body and how much the Oscar race is influencing the way people are voting for the Niddies, Demi Moore was number 2. Again, didn't come close. I mean, Mikey Madison ran away with this. Demi Moore did get the second most votes in the first round. I've not seen The Substance, and I will not be seeing The Substance. So there's that.
Yeah, Jeff. I mean, we talked about it just the other day. You'd seen it.
Yeah.
We pretty much agree on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool movie. I enjoyed it. I'm kind of shocked it's up for Best Picture, but it's not. It's a really fun, wild movie. Well made, I mean, too. So it's just pretty grisly body horror. You don't expect to see that on the Best Picture Oscar list. Though maybe on the Niddy list you do. I don't know. We don't know really what the Niddies are yet. So
yeah.
But,
I mean, it's funny again the way that I'm a little disappointed in how much our list is reflective of the Oscar list. Hopefully next year we get a little bit more variety. But the Oscars are a little bit more all over the place this year, so that's probably why. But there's all that is to say, there's horror movies on the Niddy lists, and there's 2 horror movies that have been nominated for quite a few Oscars this year. It's very rare. Speaking of which, in the Best Director category, our nominees are Robert Eggers for Nosferatu, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, George Miller for Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, Sean Baker for Honora, and Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2. So this is the category where we're being really populist. Although, is it populist to say that George Miller should be nominated for Best Director when that movie was seen by no one? Which is also nonsense. The movie's incredible.
Wait, it was seen by no one? Is that true?
Oh
Was
my
it
God,
not?
it totally bombed. Yeah.
I kind of missed that.
Big miss. Yeah.
Oh,
Did you see it in the theater?
I did not. No.
I did.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
I know. It is my fault. It came out in like May or June, right? We moved into our house in May. I didn't really... It was just busy. I didn't go to any movies for like 2 months.
You just never should have left New York.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's the rule. That's the way. So the winner is a guy who might win the Oscar too, though. It's Sean Baker. So let's take a look at how this went. In the first round, Brady Corbet had a strong lead. And then some of the second choice votes went to George Miller, and it was tied for second place between Miller and Sean Baker for a while. And then Miller dropped out because he had fewer points in general, and all of his votes went to Sean Baker, and that is how Sean Baker took the lead and won the best director Niddy. That's the end of that.
Interesting.
The inaugural.
I don't know how close it was, but I still haven't seen The Brutalist, so I actually had to leave him blank on mine, but I had Miller 1 and Sean Baker 4, so actually if I had seen The Brutalist, I could have had some impact there.
Yeah. What's interesting is, so I voted for Corbet. I mean, The Brutalist is my favorite movie of the year, but I wonder if I did it because The Brutalist has the most directing, and Honora feels much more like a Sean Baker movie where he's actually not doing like there's that scene in Honora where they go to Vegas, or that sequence of scenes where they go to Vegas. That's the only thing in Honora that really feels like a classic Sean Baker movie, where it all feels very loose and let's let people do what comes a little more naturally. But even still, Baker kind of feels like he's letting the actors run wild, and The Brutalist is a very controlled movie.
If I can reflect for a second, I feel like this was the hardest one for me when we were doing our nominees, like, because it's like at first I just put in all the big movies because I feel like, well, they're directed. Like, I mean, I'm not a filmmaker, I have some idea of what goes on, but it's kind of confusing. You're like, what, these were my 5 favorite movies of the year. Does that mean those are my 5 best directors, or do I try to think more like who's doing a better job of directing? Do I even know what that means?
Right.
Like, how do I know? In my head, it just ended up being, well, this is a bigger production, so like I guess they did a better job directing, because there was more delegation. I don't know.
It's funny you say that though, because isn't that really the producer's job, is to stage the film? But we don't know. Kind of goes to show that like the general voting for these awards are kind of dumb, and the ones that are by the guilds and by the the fields, those make way more sense because they know what the hell they're talking about.
Yep.
Which is why I really like watching animated movies that are voted on and highly regarded by people who win animated award, like the Annies and stuff like that. That's more interesting to me.
In our nomination tally, I should say the most popular choice was Villeneuve, had the most points when we were tallying up the nominations. So, we're recognizing Dune all over the place here.
Yeah, my second favorite movie of the year. Jake, this is your award show. Tell us about the biggest award of the day.
Well, Best Picture, we ended up with an interesting case here. We had a grand total of 51 movies that appeared on someone's ballot in some form or another, which I think is awesome that there were that many movies that this widely variant group of people recognize as amongst their favorites of the year. So that's an incredible list, and like I said, I just want to thank everybody again for voting and participating in this. It was a lot of fun. I hope to do it next year, and we'll hopefully keep adding guests and doing more of this. So of those 51 movies, we ended up with a 4-way tie for the 9 and 10 spots, and we just decided that we were gonna let that go, and we're gonna have 12 nominees. So these are, of the 51 that were submitted, these are the 12 that received the most nominations votes, and they are in alphabetical order: Honora, The Brutalist, Challengers, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Flow, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, Nosferatu, A Real Pain, Sing Sing, and The Wild Robot.
I don't think there's any movies that I would be super mad about not making it here. I think all of the ones I really wanted made it.
I'll give a shout out to a movie that hasn't come up at all, but I nominated it for a few things. I think I just liked it more than maybe the average person, but His Three Daughters on Netflix, I really, really thought that was great. My wife and I just watched that. Only I know it came out like over the summer or maybe the fall, but we only watched it a few weeks ago, and I would have nominated maybe all three for Best Actress. I think I did nominate two of them, of Natasha Lyonne and Carrie Coon and Olsen. So anyway, I just really found that movie very moving.
I don't know if I wound up nominating Natasha Lyonne, but when I was thinking of my nominees for that category, she was in and out of my list. That movie's great. I think the last 10 minutes of that movie like really put it over the edge as an incredible piece of work.
Agreed.
And I agree with that too. I also really like this movie, but it couldn't crack the top 12, which again speaks just to the strength of the films that came out this year. I know Brad and I have had this conversation before many times. People will say, "Oh, they're not making that many good movies this year. I didn't see that many good movies this year." I'm like, well, then what are you watching? Because there's a ton of great movies that are out there. And there's big budget great movies. There's Netflix great movies. Low budget independent great movies. There's great movies everywhere that you want to look. And this year I think was a strong year. There's a lot of great movies this year, including the 12 that we have nominated for our Best Picture.
One that I wish had made it but didn't is Saturday Night. I just thought that movie was so fun and was getting like a little bit of Oscar talk, I think, on the festival circuit, and then people didn't like it as much. I don't know what people expect from comedies, but I thought it was really great.
And our winner for the first ever Niddy for Best Picture, and the big winner of the entire award ceremony for us, is Sean Baker's Anora.
So Anora was in the lead, despite the fact that it took 6 rounds for it to take the crown. It never was out of the lead. A Brutalist was second, but never came close to catching up. So you can tell we're not biased. I mean, we all loved Anora, but I would have had Brutalist winning like all this stuff.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm glad. It's cool.
It was a cool experiment to do. Like I said, hopefully, next year we can get some more, we'll have more guests on. We can get an even wider voting body and see what we can come up with. But yeah, this is a really cool experiment. I loved seeing everybody's lists, seeing all the different things that we had on this list. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I want to mention just a couple of the other movies that we had get nomination or get mentioned in the Best Picture. We had Clint Eastwood's Juror Number 2 got mentioned by someone, which a movie kind of disappeared or never really played in theaters, and then was just kind of dumped on HBO Max. We had a vote for Gladiator 2. We had a vote for Twisters, which was not from Jeff Richardson, but we did have a vote for Twisters in the Best Picture category.
Is that from Annie?
That was from Annie, yeah. Yeah, it was from Brad's wife. Annie had that one in there. We had a vote for Baby Girl. We had a vote for Lord of the Rings, the new animated film that came out, The War of the
Oh God, that movie's bad.
It's real bad. For a black and white comedy called Hundreds of Beavers.
That must have been from me.
That was from you, absolutely.
Okay.
So
it was incredible. Jeff, do you know about Hundreds of Beavers?
I know about it, yes. I still haven't seen it yet, but I'm very aware and eager to watch it. And I actually had seen their movie they made before that called Lake Michigan Monster, or the filmmaker or whatever. So I know what I'm getting into.
I don't know that you do.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, a couple other interesting ones. We had a couple of different votes for The Fall Guy. Showed up on a couple of people's lists. The Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt movie had a couple of votes for I Saw the TV Glow, another really cool independent movie that's up for several Independent Spirit Awards. We did have some votes for Saturday Night. We had a couple of votes, and Brad, I would have joined you guys in this. We had a couple of votes for the new French version of Count of Monte Cristo that has been playing around recently. So we had a couple of votes for that. We had a couple of votes for The Substance. Almost made it. Memoir of a Snail was very close to making it into the Best Picture list. So just a lot of really interesting, wildly different movies that came out this year.
Yeah. Did I vote for Red Rooms? Had I seen that yet?
I don't think you voted it for...
I probably voted for supporting actress or something.
Yeah, you did one of the actress or supporting actress, yeah.
Well, shout out Red Rooms. That movie's incredible. Okay, so I'm going to go talk to my neighbor, and I will give her this Niddy trophy for the most awards won.
Awesome.
This rockfish, tin of rockfish. Sean Baker, this is for you. Congrats.
Of the 10 awards that we presented this year, Anora won 4 of them, and it was nominated for 5, and it won 4 of them. So I mean, that's a dominant performance. Do
we want to real quick run through some Oscar predictions? We did that last year. Do you want to do that real quick right now?
Yeah, just for the main categories.
Yeah.
I haven't been paying too much attention to the predictions or what's going on. It seems like correct me if I'm wrong, but the Best Picture is pretty much like up in the air. Like a lot of people, there's like multiple things that people don't really know what's going on. Is that fair to say? I know that the acting nominees seem like they're almost locked up, which is kind of bizarre. But
so it kind of seems like it's between Amelia Perez and The Brutalist, although because of ranked choice voting, I think Anora still has a pretty good shot. Mm-hmm. And actually, so does A Complete Unknown, and actually kind of so does
Conclave.
Wicked.
What about Conclave, do you think?
Yeah, Conclave, maybe. I mean, like, ranked choice voting really makes it see. It's hard to know.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. Mm-hmm. It seems like it could go all over.
Choice votes. The number one votes, I think, are going to be split between Amelia Perez and The Brutalist. But, like, if you voted for Amelia Perez, is your number two going to be Brutalist? Probably not. It's probably going to be, like, Anora or Wicked.
Yeah. Well, what if you voted for Brutalist? Then Amelia Perez be
number two is probably going to be Conclave or A Complete Unknown or The Substance.
Anora could sneak in there because it seems if you know, our voting body is anything to judge, which is probably maybe not a good way to compare the Niddies to the Academy. But like, you know, Anora seems widely popular versus, I mean, I don't know. I know Amelia Perez is, some people, I mean, I didn't actually really care for it. I was going to say some people. I mean, I didn't even really like it that much.
I didn't like it either.
Yeah, so it's kind of, you know, I don't know. I imagine some people might have it pretty low.
So I have Anora as my guess for Best Picture. I'm just looking at, I did a pool with the Angelica Theater. Mm-hmm. And I have Anora as my guess. What do you think, Jake?
I still think it's going to go to The Brutalist. I think it's just a kind of a big, epic sort of Academy Award winning sounding movie. And my wife and I have been talking about this a great deal, and we touched on it a little bit in our 1978 episode, I think, where we were talking about the AI controversy that's existed with this. I really haven't seen any industry people complaining about the use of AI in The Brutalist. It's mostly been like the Twitter sphere, the, you know, whatever, like the online community. And it's not like people within the industry that seem to have a problem with this. And that's who's voting on the Best Picture. So I still think Brutalist is a good bet to win Best Picture. But I mean, certainly, yeah, it could be Anora. Amelia Perez also seems really loved by the industry for some reason. I saw Ron Perlman, who we talked about recently on the episode. Ron Perlman said it because it's the best movie I saw all year. I loved, you know, so it's like, so a lot of, seems to have a lot of love in the industry. I liked it a little more than you guys did, but it wouldn't have been one of my 10 for Best Picture or anything.
Yeah, I think if the AI thing affects anything, and I actually do believe it will, it's going to be Brody, not the movie.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go in order of what I have here. Best Director. This is where I think The Brutalist is taking it. I think Brady Corbet is gonna snag that one.
Yeah, and like you said, it's like the thing of like most directing. This was obviously the most directed movie, and I think those often win. Yeah.
Next up is Best Actor. Like I said, I think some people are going to ding Brody just because it was a good hit. I mean, like, I don't agree with it, but I think this was a good piece of counter campaigning of Oppo research. Mm-hmm. And I think also the Oscars and the Oscars voting body love a story. We mentioned this a few weeks ago, but if Timothée Chalamet wins this award, he is becoming the youngest person to ever win this award, and he's taking that record away from Adrian Brody, who is, you know, defending the award here.
Wow.
For that reason, I think Chalamet is going to take it.
Mm-hmm. I had not heard that. That's really interesting. Wait, how old was Brody when he won?
29, and Chalamet's 28.
Wow, and that would be the youngest?
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
for
that's
lead,
kind of surprising.
For lead actor,
yeah. I'm actually surprised.
I think supporting actress can never be touched. I think the youngest person was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think she was like 9.
Okay.
Yeah, but still, that'll be tough.
What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I think Chalamet is actually going to win this one too. Also because his campaigning has gone without a hitch. He's very, like, you know, his Saturday Night Live performance was well received. You know, he doesn't have any of the controversy, like I said, with the AI thing or anything. He's very popular right now. He seems very happy to be there. All that sort of thing. I just think the win seems to be blowing his direction. And I love the performance. I'm Bob Dylan. I'm obsessed with Bob Dylan. I think he's great, and I think Chalamet did just an outstanding job there. And I think, you know, a lot of the Academy voters will respond to that too, just because they're you know, probably a lot of Dylan fans, and they're just like, you know, Chalamet was a great Dylan. So I think that's going to be it. And like I said, I think Brody will take a little bit of a hit from the AI, which I also don't agree with, but I definitely think that'll happen. But it's got to be between those two for sure.
And they don't do ranked choice on these, right? It's just the main one. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking if they did, maybe Ralph Fiennes could have a shot because he's widely liked, but no shot.
It's not his year.
No, not this year.
He's never won. Is that right? Or has he?
He's never won. This is only his. I think this is just his third nomination that he's had total. It was for Schindler's List, which he lost to Tommy Lee Jones. For The Fugitive, he was up for supporting, and then he was up for lead in The English Patient, which he lost to Jeffrey Rush from Shine.
And nobody ever talks about either of those movies anymore.
What, The Fugitive? Or you mean The English Patient or
English
Shine?
Patient or Shine.
Oh, yeah. English Patient every time I watch the Seinfeld episode.
I think that keeps The English Patient alive more than it winning Best Picture.
For sure.
Maybe.
For Best Actress, I think Demi Moore is taking this one.
Wow.
It's sort of a wind blowing in that direction kind of situation.
Mhm.
She won the Golden Globe. She gave a great speech about how she's never won any award ever. That was the first ever award she'd ever won. Now, who knows if that's real, but plausible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close enough to true, probably. Yeah.
I like that take, though.
And as we know from Jamie Lee Curtis's resurgence, the Oscars love this story.
Yes.
So, I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is nominated again this year, isn't she? Or did she not get it? No, but people liked her in Last Showgirl. Probably not a big enough move. Well, didn't work out. Also, it's like the same character she's playing in The Bear. So there's that. Yeah, I think Demi Moore's taking this one.
Wait, so is Carla Gascon is the favorite? Is that right?
No, I think Mikey Madison is the favorite.
Mikey Madison's the favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
Mikey Madison definitely the favorite, and I still think she's going to pull it off. Although Demi Moore wouldn't surprise me at all. I think Brad, you could be right. I mean, it's definitely going to be one of those two. I think especially I think it was more of a three-person race when Carla Gascon was before we had uncovered her Twitter history, and she had said some things about Fernanda Torres that I think have dinged her in a really negative way, and I think that's definitely going to hurt her campaign.
It turns out she's a bad person.
Yeah, she's just kind of an asshole. Definitely think it's Mikey and Demi, and I don't know. The Academy also loves giving Best Actress to the youngest, to young actors. I'd have to look back at the listing, but you can see Best Actress often goes to a younger actress, and supporting has often gone more to the older. But
but what about Michelle Yeoh?
Well, as I said, there are exceptions to every rule.
Yeah.
So this might be an exception that becomes a rule.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and Demi Moore, for all the faults that The Substance has, which I think are numerous, and I can't believe people are considering it one of the best movies of the year or anything. But for all the faults it has, Demi Moore is really, really good in it. She's definitely a highlight of it. So I would not at all be upset if she won.
Cool.
Agreed.
All right. Next up is Best Supporting Actor, and I mean, I went with Kieran Culkin because it just seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah. That one seems like it's all sewn up.
It feels like he won that in November, right?
I mean, this is a place where if Clarence Macklin wins, it'd be a cool surprise. I like Culkin, and
Clarence Macklin's not nominated, so it's going to be tough.
Oh,
win, yeah,
this is sewn up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Macklin, and I thought Macklin was great. I really wish he would have made it in there. But yeah, it's Yura Borisov, Culkin, Edward Norton in Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce Brutalist, and then Jeremy Strong from The Apprentice.
Yeah. So unless the Brutalist goes on a crazy sweep, it's not. It's Culkin.
It's Culkin. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Best Supporting Actress. So this is where I gave Emilia Perez its flowers. I went with Zoe Saldana. And Emilia Perez, she's never won before. I don't think she's ever been nominated before.
Nope.
That seems like she's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought she was really good, and I have to say, I said earlier I didn't like the movie very much, but it was really awesome to see her in a movie that wasn't science fiction, or she wasn't green or blue or what. I mean, I'm sure people have probably said that already, but it's just she was actually really talented and really good in this movie, and I didn't really. I mean, I kind of forgot that if I knew that ever. So
I think she is one of the top 10 highest grossing actors in Hollywood history, between Avatar and Avengers and stuff like that.
Star
Trek, yeah. I mean, wild. She's a good actor.
I think among female actors, I think she's number one, actually, because of those. I don't think anyone, and I think it's not even close.
Yeah.
Behind her, just because even with the Marvel stuff that Scarlett Johansson would have, but Zoe's got Avatar on top of that, so that makes it. And I totally agree. I think she's the highlight of the movie by far. Also, if we're talking category fraud, she is 100% the lead of this movie. 100%.
It's about her.
Literally about her, even though she's not the title character. I mean, she is definitely the lead of this movie.
Yeah.
And I think that helps sometimes in supporting categories. People get votes. We're oh yeah, we're going to vote for this because they're really the lead of the movie. I think a lot of that happens with a lot of supporting wins with that. But yeah, I think she's really good in it. And I echo, everything Jeff says. It's nice to see her get to do something. And my memories of the movie, it's funny. It's a musical. I don't remember the songs particularly well. The songs,
because they're bad.
They're not all that great, but I remember a lot of the staging of the songs and her big number, especially that's what really sticks out to me in the movie. I remember a lot of that, and that's what made the movie. Like I said, I liked it more than you guys, but like I said, I think even the movie's biggest detractors would have to say Zoe Saldana was the best part of that movie.
I don't think there's a single scene, and if there are, there's not many, that Carla Sofia Gascon is in that Zoe Saldana is not also in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be very few.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, best original screenplay. I think that's going to Honora.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the kind of movie that wins original screenplay.
This is the coolest category at the Oscars every year. And Anora, frankly, is the coolest movie at the Oscars, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the other nominees that's going up against The Brutalist, A Real Pain, which I think in maybe any other year would have that kind of indie, original screenplay type of cred to win. But Anora just is, way more popular, is a Best Picture nominee, all that. And then the other nominees are The Substance for original screenplay, and then the lone nomination for a movie that I really liked called September 5 is for original screenplay as well. I thought that was really good.
It's a really cool movie, but it's a little, I mean, I loved it. I had such a great time in the theater. Great time is weird to move about a kidnapping and massacre, but it's told from the point of view of the journalists, and it's so gripping. Dialogue is not so memorable. Not that this is like the dialogue award, but it's a big part of it.
Yeah.
So not surprised. Also, the movie, I think it's coming out at a time when people don't want to talk about Israelis as victims. That makes people uncomfortable, which whatever. I say fuck your feelings, but it's a great movie.
It is, yeah. Jeff, I think you'd really like it too.
It's high on my list. Yeah, I'm planning to go see. Or it was actually in Traverse City briefly, but it's whenever it becomes available, streaming or whatever, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Best Adapted Screenplay, the slightly less cool award. I think this is another one where it's gotten so many nominations. I think Emilia Perez is going to take this.
Yeah, I could see Emilia Perez, but also, there is a bit of a backlash now going on with Carlos Sofia Gasca.
She didn't write the movie.
She didn't write the movie, but it's still going to affect. I still think it's going to affect the movie in a lot of ways. And I think this is a category where something like I think it could go to either Complete Unknown or Conclave. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see either of those two win. I actually think Complete Unknown is going to be the favorite here because outside of maybe Timothée Chalamet, I think that's the best place to really recognize the movie, and I think a lot of people will go for it that way. And it's also it's well written, it's an interesting story. It integrates the dialogue with the music and the songs and everything really really well. So I could totally see that. Or in Conclave would probably be in the three there. I think it's going to be one of those three. I think Nickel Boys and Sing Sing are not going to be factors in this. Which Oscar's So White. That's the whole thing for another podcast. But I think in this category that's the case.
I'm going to pick Conclave so we can each have something different here for our prediction. Cool. So so I was leaning that anyway. I thought that it might have some support, and people like to recognize things for this category. It feels like that it's not going to get another award. Let me give it screenplay. So
Best Animated Feature, I think Flo's taking it. I think Wild Robot's going to be upset, and I think Flo's going to take it. There's just a good narrative behind it. It's not going to win in Best International Feature. People are going to see it in both categories. So Flea didn't win here, which goes against my thoughts, but people really like Flo on top of everything. It's made a lot more money than it had any right to make. It's very good. I think The Wild Robot is its biggest challenge. It's a weird year where the Pixar movie is third place. But that's and I would actually say the Pixar movie is the least strong of all these movies. So
of the five, yeah. And I really liked it, but I still think it's the weakest of the five.
I'm going Flo.
Yeah, I'll go with that too. I don't know. I mean, those are the only two I've seen, and I love Flo. Flo is my favorite movie of the year, I think. So I really hope you're right and that it does win. So that's what I'll pick too.
Yeah, I love both of them. I think they're both great. So happy they're nominated. Wild Robot has a couple additional nominations this year, which a lot of times animated films don't get. Like it did get nominated also in for score and sound, which I think kind of points to a more love for that movie. So I still think the Wild Robot's going to win, but it wouldn't surprise me at all to have Flo win it either. But officially, I would pick the Wild Robot because I just think it's going to win.
And then Best Documentary Feature, I haven't seen any of these movies, so I am not going to make a prediction. What do you think, Jake?
At this point, I have seen 4 of them. The only one that I'll just run through the nominees. Black Box Diaries, which I just saw the other night streaming on Paramount Plus, is terrific. It's about a Japanese woman journalist who was raped by someone very powerful in that country, and it's kind of about her story, writing the book about that, and all the legal challenges and everything that went into that. It's a really, really cool movie, really interesting, really infuriating and inspiring, kind of in equal measures. I also mentioned earlier No Other Land, the Israeli-Palestinian documentary that we talked about, that's nominated, and there's a movie called Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, which is just a crazy documentary with a lot of different things going on about American history with all the coups that the CIA and instigated and supported and everything. So it was good. It would have been one of my 5. And then the other nominee is Sugarcane, the one that I mentioned about the Native American boarding schools. So it's a rough category. I mean, there's not like a fun documentary that's in it this year. Will and Harper didn't make it or anything like that. So there's nothing. I mean, these are rough movies. It's hard to say. Documentary is a really tough category to predict. But I feel like No Other Land might be one, because that's the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has been such a big part of the news for the last little bit, and it feels like one that I don't know, people maybe feel like they're doing something by voting for. I'm not I'm not sure, but also that being said, I've seen it. It's a really powerful documentary. It's like one of those documentaries like, okay, this is what documentary film can show us and what it can do. So I think it's a really powerful, again, really difficult as a Jew to watch what's going on over there, but it's a very good documentary, and if I had to pick one, I think that's going to be the one to win.
Okay, so I don't think we need to do any of these other ones.
That covers the Niddies. Those are the categories that we covered in the Niddies. But
right, and yeah. I do love to keep this podcast under an hour if possible, and I think I'll be able to do that. Jeff, thanks for joining us for the first ever Niddies.
Yeah, right. My honor. This was fun. Yeah, it was. I feel it's been a great night. I can't wait for the after party. So yeah, I'll see you guys there. Yeah.
And Jake, thanks for coming up with the Niddies and putting it together. And thank you to everyone who voted. We really appreciate you. Once again, Trip, Brandon, Riley, Mike, other Mike, Annie, Megan, Kevin, Jesse, Jeff, of course, and Viv. Thank you all. We really appreciate you. We'll be back next week with Mike Tanzillo with more movies. Of course, as always, we're getting close to ending this first run of the project.
Season 1.